we'll have a good time. So. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited to be here tonight. We have some wonderful, wonderful guests. Now, I kind of faked my audience out here because I'm going live on one page and sharing from another page. I was going to go live on both pages, and I'm kind of flipping it. So I'm hoping that you guys will catch on. If you got any problems, somebody hit me and let me know. Okay, so we have some wonderful, wonderful guests, and we're going to be talking about the political process, what's going on in the world right now, and also we're going to be talking about their experiences in running for office in the city of Chicago. So I'm super excited. But we got to play our trivia game first. So let me do this. I'm actually going to go back on to with my other page and get us going on here too, because I think we're going to get more folks here who are going to be playing trivia games. So here's how the game works. We do a news trivia game every week. And the person that wins gets, actually, I've got all this 1619 production paraphernalia and stuff that just sitting in my office. I'm selling T-shirts and things like that. But I'm going to give you, whether I've got a couple books, I've got some T-shirts, talk to me, holler at me. I will make sure that you get something if you win the game. And the way that we play the game is I've got 10 current event questions. You have to answer the questions in the chat box, so please make sure that you put your answers in very quickly. If you are having a problem with that, please do not blame me. Blame your internet connect provider or blame Facebook. It is not my fault if you felt like you put the answer in and it didn't happen. So. But let me just introduce my guests real quickly, because the guests aren't officially allowed to play because they're only on here because they're political experts. However, they can keep their own score, and then I will do the honor system and see if they are actually, you know what I mean? Like, you guys have to keep your own score and then tell me who really won. And don't lie, okay? Because I know y'all. I know where to find you. I know where some of y'all live. Don't lie, okay? So everyone, real quickly, I just want to give round robin. I've got Nicole Johnson, who is a public policy expert. And I think, Nicole, are you a consultant now? You're doing consulting work with public policy. I know that Nicole ran for alderman in the Inglewood community. Nicole was a former student of mine. Nicole went to a runoff in her campaign, and we're going to talk about that. She is an advocate. Nicole, what else you doing you want to tell us about right now? That's pretty cool. I see you, Lucretia. We'll get you a shirt in the book.
Oh, Lucretia, hey girl. I'm working in development right now, so I'm the manager of development with Chicago Scholars, which is a college access and leadership development organization. So I like to say I attract money and opportunity and resource to help provide it to students in need like mine. And so, to add on to what you said, I ran for alderman in the 20th ward, which includes not just Inglewood, but Woodlawn, Washington Park, and Back of the Yards and New City community. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nicole. And we attract money. I attract money. I like that. That ought to be a hashtag. I want you to tell us more about your work later on, because that's very cool. Then we have Ken Thomas. Ken Thomas is an attorney and a friend of mine as well, who ran for state senator in the Hyde Park area for actually Barack Obama's former seat. And Ken, why don't you tell us a little about what you're doing? But we're not going to get into the conversation yet. So, give me a little snippet here of what are you doing, and then we're going to come back and talk about your experiences, and also, more importantly, what you guys think we ought to be doing now in this time of protest, social change. What ought we be doing? Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, so I've gone back to practicing law, same thing I did before I ran for office, but haven't left what drove me to run for office, which was keeping a focus on people in our community who have been left behind by our system, whether it be in the eviction process or in our legal system, that continues to fight for those folks. So, gone back to my law practice, but still very passionate about those things.
Absolutely. And last but not least, we have Dr. Amara Enyia, the one and only, who took on the highest levels of the Chicago political machine at 2 different occasions and roused up the people. Amara, you got people going and excited and ready to get going. I know I've worked with you as well. You are got your hands in a lot of sort of social change, public policy initiatives. And so we're so excited to have you here today as well. Why don't you tell us a little about what you are doing right now, Dr. Enyia?
Well, so the immediate work that I've been doing has really been now focused locally, just managing or helping people to manage what's happened with COVID-19. And, it's affecting small businesses, it's affecting folks who don't know if they're going to be employed. So really pushing just alternative models, especially for business ownership, cooperative economic models, talking about public banking, actually working on that nationally. That's the immediate. Prior to everything being locked down, I was actually traveling, doing a lot more international work, working with the African Union, and also splitting time basically between here and the West Coast on development projects in the Bahamas, doing relief, community development and relief from Hurricane Dorian. And that work is ongoing. So got locked down in Chicago for the time being. So figured I'd do what I can to help people while I'm here.
That's right. And there are worse places in the world to be locked down in than Chicago. Okay. Our city has a bad reputation. However, in certain ways, and then we've got a lot of greatness that has come out of this city as well. And so I love Chicago. I have a love-hate relationship with Chicago, as I'm sure all of you do. And but it's more love than hate. And so we all continue to fight to make our communities better. I'm so excited. We're going to have the trivia game, so don't go anywhere because I'm about to do this trivia game. But this conversation we're going to have is about what it's like to take on the Chicago political machine, what it's like to be engaged in the political process, what you learned. I ran for alderman in the 9th Ward in the city of Chicago back in 2015. I learned a lot too, so I'll throw in a couple of thoughts, but I really want to hear from our guests. So here we go. If you're playing with us, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready. No cheating, no cheating. Here we go. Question number 1. Let's see if you have been watching the news. Once again, our guests will be playing on the side, but they will not get a prize. Lucretia Burtz has already said she's claiming the 1619 t-shirts. Let's see if you got it, Lucretia. Here we go. Question number 1, 10 questions. Which actor will star in the runaway slave drama Emancipation? Is it Will Smith, Idris Elba, or Terrence Howard? Will Smith, Idris Elba, or Terrence Howard? I see you, Aprecia Faulkner, CEO of Global Strategists Association. What's going on? Will Smith, Idris Elba, or Terrence Howard will be starring in the new film called Emancipation. First person in the chat box, they got it. Aprecia Faulkner put Will Smith. Do I have any more comment? People, y'all, come on, y'all are slow tonight now. You gonna let Aprecia win this now? Come on, that's not fair. Aprecia is in our circle as well. Jennifer Thorpe put Idris Elba. What's up, Jen? All the way from Virginia. Yes, from Virginia. Jennifer put, I had no clue. Regina Kreider. Regina Kreider's back. Regina Kreider won the game last week, so it's good to see you again, Regina Kreider. You didn't hit me in the inbox, Regina Kreider, so that I can send you your prize from last week. Please make sure you send me a message. Okay, Aprecia's a born winner. She's born a winner. Correct answer is Will Smith, folks. Will Smith will be playing in this. Boy, Will Smith gets all the good roles, doesn't he, guys? He gets to play heroes. He plays the enslaved. Come on, Will, let somebody else play it, man. Hey, you got enough credits to your name, bro. All right, now let Terrence Howard get a little juice. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Anyway, Idris don't need it either. Why don't you see some new faces? Okay, whatever. All right, here we go. This week in the news, a passenger on a Swiss train left $190,000 worth of this on this train accidentally. A passenger on a Swiss train left $190,000 worth of this on the train. Was it gold, diamonds, or cheese? Gold, diamonds, or cheese? Here we go. The first question went to Aprecia. I'm keeping score for Aprecia. Second question will go to whom? Here we go. All right. Did you guys get the first question right? Any of you guys get the first question right?
I got the first question.
Okay. Okay.
I did.
Okay. Nicole, did you get the first question right?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, we got some answers in the box. Okay, I'm still waiting. Lucretia, you got to earn this t-shirt now, girl. It ain't looking good right now, Lucretia. Now, come on now. You know what I mean? So, okay. All right. The correct answer is Gold, $190,000 worth of gold was found on this train. Can you believe it? Who has $190,000 worth of gold to leave on the train and then forget about it? Okay. And the person that got that one is Regina Kreider. She is back. She wants to do a repeat. Come on, Regina Kreider. Let somebody else win this week. Man, you killing. Okay. Here we go. You're like the Patriots, Regina Kreider. Okay, here we go. The Quaker Oats Company is rebranding which one of its products? If any one of y'all get this wrong, y'all in trouble. Is it Aunt Jemima syrup, Life cereal, or Captain Crunch cereal? The Quaker Oats brand is rebranding which one of its products? Kenny, did you get the last one right?
No, I didn't.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But I got this one.
Okay. At least you are honest, which I really. We get to. All right, Nicole. Hold on a second. I think Nicole is joining us. She's got a different situation. So Nicole, let's put you back in here, Nicole. What's up, Nicole? All right, we get to see you. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. It looks like the first person in here was Mary Dyson. Mary Dyson got that one right. Aunt Jemima. And yes, now you guys, I mean, we can talk about this. They didn't know that Aunt Jemima was racist last month. I'm just saying. Like,
they knew. They knew.
I mean, what? It said George Floyd. What? Get out of here. Get out of here. Okay, Aunt Jemima, that is going to be the Mary Dyson. Number 4. A new outbreak of coronavirus cases connected to a food market led to a partial lockdown this week of which city? A partial lockdown of this city because of new coronavirus cases. Was it Beijing, Hong Kong, Shanghai, or Wuhan? Beijing, Hong Kong, Shanghai, or Wuhan? You can Google quickly if you want. If you're fast with the Google, I'm not mad at you. You can cheat. I don't really care. Okay, I don't really care. Go for it. Okay. All right. Okay. Somebody put China. No, I gave you some cities in China, folks. Come on, I'm gonna need y'all to give me some cities back. Oh, Cliff is back. What's up, Cliff? Cliff almost won last week, but he didn't win last week. He had some other important things going on. The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is Beijing, and Clifford Brown has it. Cliff, you're on the board. We got Appreciate Faulkner with 1. We got Regina Kreider with 1. We got Mary Dyson with 1. We got Clifford Brown with 1. We are on number 5. My guest, how you guys doing? How are we doing so far? Amara, how you doing? Like I know you all listen. I know you all can't say if you're not getting these right because a lot of your income and life depends on you all being public policy experts. So I get it. If you miss a few, you're good. Okay. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I mean, I feel the same way. Like people always asking me to come and talk about politics. If I mess up on this quiz, man, I might, you know what I mean? I might not get called so much anymore. Okay.
That's about coins.
Okay, question number 5. After a police officer fatally shot a black man outside of a fast food restaurant, this officer was fired and the police chief resigned in which city? Was it Atlanta, Nashville, Oklahoma City, or Chicago? I gotta say that with a straight face. Atlanta, Nashville, Oklahoma City, or Chicago? I see you, Lucretia. My bad about that. That's what I saw in the pot. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't see the whole thing. Dang, Cliff is fast on this thing. Lucretia put Atlanta. Appreciate put Atlanta. Mary put Atlanta. Canoe, what's up, man? Put Atlanta. Tawana Royster is in the house. She put Atlanta, but it looks like Cliff got to it first. Cliff got that high-speed internet, folks. And now Cliff is in the lead. He has 2. Here we go. Question number 6. The Trump administration tried to delay the publication of a highly anticipated memoir by which person? Was it John Kelly, John Bolton, Michael Bolton, or Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Was it John Kelly, John Bolton, Michael Bolton, or Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Which memoir are they trying to block this week? You said Michael Bolton, Kenny, is what you said?
Oh yeah, I'm certain it's Michael Ball.
Certain Michael Butler. Okay. All right. It looks like the first person in my feed is Aprecia Faulkner. Aprecia got it, and Aprecia and Cliff are tied for first place with 2. Kreider has 1. Dyson has 1. And here we go, number 7. I see you. The rest of you guys are brilliant. You guys got it smart. I mean, you guys are smart. You guys got it. I see you. Don't quit, Lucretia. Don't you dare quit on me, Lucretia. TJ got it. Y'all got it. It just y'all got to upgrade your internet. That's all I'm saying. Okay, here we go. Next question, number 7. Okay, after closing in March, which landmark is expected to reopen next week? Is it the Corn Palace, Big Ben, or the Eiffel Tower? After closing in March, which landmark is expected to reopen this week? The Corn Palace, Big Ben, or the Eiffel Tower? Hey, Karis, how are you? Cliff. Come on, Canoe, don't go give a dude 5G. That's right, bro. That's right. You got it. Yeah. All right, here we go. We got some answers coming in. Nicole, how you doing on the quiz so far? All right. No worries. Okay, Jennifer said she's clueless. Lucretia said the Corn Palace. Mary said the Tower. Aprecia said the Tower. And it looks like Aprecia's comment is in first. It is the Eiffel Tower, and Aprecia now has taken the lead. She has 3. Cliff, come on, man. What are you doing? Cliff? Okay, here we go. Yesterday, the President of the United States of America, one of our favorite people, I'm sure, for everyone here on the line, moved his rally that was supposed to be held on the Juneteenth holiday in which U.S. city? Which rally was supposed to be held on the Juneteenth holiday that he moved yesterday to be held in which U.S. city was he trying to hold a rally on Juneteenth? Here we go. Cliff is in already, folks. Ain't nothing to talk about. I didn't even give any multiple choice. It was Tulsa. I see you, Michael Crenshaw. I see all of y'all, but Cliff got it. And it looks like Cliff and Aprecia are tied for first. We got 2 more questions, folks, before we get to hear from these wonderful guests. So here we go. Next, it's a funny question. This is ridiculous, actually. Okay, some political stuff, some silly stuff. In a recent survey,
with these, Ted.
Say it again. You said what?
Tickled with these.
I what with them? I'm tickled. What'd you say?
Tickled.
Oh, I am tickled. This is hilarious. Okay, I'm having a good time. It's a Saturday night, folks. We've all been serious all week. I'm sorry. I know you probably used to seeing me this loose and silly, but I am enjoying myself tonight. Now, check this out. In a recent study, due to the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdowns that are associated with it, fewer Americans have reported that they are blank. Wearing pants, very happy, or voting in the next election. Due to the coronavirus lockdowns, fewer Americans have said, due to this pandemic, that fewer are wearing pants, very happy, or voting in the next election. Cliff Brown.
Well, I know what it is for me, Ted. I know what it is for me.
I don't want to know, bro. I don't want to know. Okay, it looks like, hold on a second. Okay, Aprecia said wearing pants. Cliff said wearing pants. Tawana said voting. Lucretia pants. Mary said happy. Canoe pants. TJ pants. Aprecia LOL. The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is very happy. Fewer Americans are reporting that they are happy. I think it's a result of the social distancing and isolation. And so we actually have Mary Dyson who got that one. And Mary Dyson now has 2. Mary, if you get this last one, you're tied for 3. First place with 2 other people. You guys will all have 3. And I ain't giving y'all 3 t-shirts, so we've got to figure something out because that's going to be a bit much. Now, all right, last final question. The NBA this week is working on plans to resume play. They are setting up a potential training camp. In which location? A, is it an undisclosed location? B, is it Las Vegas? Or C, is it Disney World? Where's the NBA setting up, folks? They're going to start playing here. Where are they resuming play? They're going to restart their season here. Undisclosed location, Disney World, Las Vegas. All right, here we go. Actually, I should probably allow... Okay, so Jennifer said I know sports. Maybe I don't know sports. I don't know. All right, the correct answer, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you guys got a lot of them here. Okay. The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is in Disney World. Cliff put it first, but Cliff, you put Disneyland, Cliff. I can't give it to you, bro. I'm sorry. And you would have won the whole game. Cliff, don't get mad at me. I know you know where I live. Do not get upset with me, Cliff. I know you're going to have some words for me. Mike Crenshaw put Orlando. The answer is Disney World. I mean, come on, folks. Come on, y'all. All right, Cliff came back actually and put Disney World and actually did it before anyone else did in the comment section. So actually, guys, I'm going to have to give it to Cliff. Congratulations, Clifford Brown.
I feel like Orlando's the right answer.
It's not the right answer. It could be at the Orlando Convention Center. It could have been at the Orlando. You know what I mean?
I guess.
Appreciate you did not win. Okay, so stop it. All right. If you got a problem, appreciate stop. You did not win. It is. Cliff Brown wins the game, folks, and congratulations, Cliff. Thank you for playing with us. All right. So good job, you guys. Cliff, hit me up, bro, and I will get you your book or your T-shirt, and we will talk. Appreciate wants a recount. Of course she does. Of course she does. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to have you guys here. I'm excited to talk about what we're talking about. I want you, number one, and I appreciate the question that Nicole asked me because I think it's very important. We're going to talk about your experiences in Chicago politics, your campaigns, but I want to couch this conversation in what on earth is going on now. You are seeing a major sort of protest movement, a global protest movement, which is very exciting. But all of us have firsthand experience of what it is like to run for office, what it is like to take on the machine. What have you learned and what can we teach for this time so that people can effectively move change? And I want to start with you, Nicole. Okay. What did you learn? What was your experience like? What did you learn? And what can you teach us about how to affect change in our community?
Man, I think one of the greatest lessons that resonates now more than ever is really just putting yourself out there. I think we start thinking like, I have to battle this now. We have an idea and it has to be perfectly curated and created and completed, a complete sentence, a full thought, a concept. And that's not what it's about. It's about consistent iteration of a specific opportunity that you want to create or resource or solution. And with that, you want to put it out there so that you get as many hands involved as possible. That was something that I started on my own, my campaign. I started out going to these things and events to put my name out there. But then I took on so much early on that it really depleted my energy towards the end of my race. And I think this is the solution and the way forward where we're at in today's uprising of sorts is it's going to take a lot of collectivism. It's going to take a lot of reaching across the aisle, across different people who they may be the same here as you, but they have different ideology, but it's still you still want to be able to come together and find a common ground. And I think people are moving in that direction. Mm-hmm. Lucretia said there's an echo, and
I think it may be sort of person specific. I'm thinking.
But Kenny had an echo too.
Did you? Kenny, talk to me for a second. Just count to 10 for me.
Yeah, I've been putting my thing on mute. That might be on mute while folks aren't talking. That might help.
Hey, Lucretia, let me know if you're hearing it all the way around, and then we'll see what we can do on this end. So I'm going to come to you now, Amara. So Amara, you ran for mayor of the city of Chicago on 2 different occasions. I can imagine that, number one, the audacity, right, for, people look at us as community activists and they go, well, you're not a part of the elite in the political system, blah, blah, blah. Did you have a lot of, I'm assuming that you literally had the establishment stacked against you. Is that correct, Amara?
I think that's correct.
Okay, cool.
In a nutshell.
So what was it that gave you the vision to take on this, and what did you learn about our system and how we can change it?
Well, I think most importantly, the vision came from just having that internal conviction about the things that needed to change in the city, and not buying into the notion that you have to wait for someone to do something that you know you can do, or that you have to sort of follow the same typical path to getting something done. For me, I've just never been the type of person to, I don't do boxes. I don't believe in, I've never gone into a space where I've conformed to things as they are. So it was never going to be my path to conform to the existing political system, especially because it's so problematic. It's been problematic. And so with that conviction, I just, there are all these questions about what's happening in Chicago, why things are the way they are. And if there's a vision, if you have a vision, then there's also responsibility to move forward based upon that vision and that conviction. I'm also not someone who grew up saying I want to be an elected official. I've never really been interested in politics as an elected official. So it wasn't something that I've dreamed about, but it was something that is absolutely necessary because of the breadth and depth of things that need to change in Chicago. So that was the impetus. There was no, this is a lifelong career path that I'm interested in. None of that. It was simply when I look around me and see the things that are happening to my peers, my colleagues, my family, my friends, and so on and so forth. And there are solutions to these issues. There's a solution to every problem. But what we haven't had is the willingness and the will and the courage to not only put those solutions forward, but also to challenge existing structures. And so Chicago has a culture of fear, or to a certain extent, people are afraid to challenge the status quo. They're afraid of not being part of some group. They're afraid of discomfort. And to a certain extent, I understand that. I don't expect everyone to make the kind of sacrifices that I made, for example, over my entire career in the name of, fighting for the community, because that's just not real. But I think it's important for those of us who do have those convictions to move in those convictions, because our ability and willingness to be uncomfortable can also liberate other people who may be thinking along those same lines. And they might say, well, I'm going to take a step to do something, not just running for office, but whatever it may be. And so that's why I think it's important for us to just lead by example, not by telling folks what I'm going to do, but hey, if I have a belief and if this is something that I think would be helpful, I'm just going to do what I'm convinced to do. And hopefully that will spur other folks to do the same. So that was sort of how it all began.
Hey, so thank you so much for that, Kenny. So what does it cost a person to run for office? Because Amara talked about the sacrifices that people don't see, right? People see you at your campaign events, and we get to become somewhat celebrities for a couple of months, and I'm not in a good way, because we're getting into the money the celebrities have, by the way. I mean, you know what I mean? We're literally just sort of, our lives are not all ours anymore, right? I mean, literally every day, all day, your life is about the people, right? And so you're out campaigning. Yeah. I remember when I stopped running, when our campaign was over, I just wanted to sit for literally weeks with no communication, because I was just drained. And I could talk about my experience, but I want you, Kenny, to tell, what does it cost? You ran for Barack Obama's old Senate seat. And all of you, by the way, all of y'all did better than I did, honestly. You guys came very close, each one of you, to winning, which I'm very excited about and very proud of, right? Kenny, what did it cost you? What don't people see when it comes to campaigns and that sort of thing?
Yeah, we came within 6.5% of beating the appointed incumbent. And I think, thinking about that and thinking about those costs is very important, because when you're deciding whether you want to run for office, whether you want to go after the political machine, you need to come up with a set of goals. What are you jumping into this for? And the reason why I decided to run was because I got tired of representing folks who were in and out of eviction court, low-income tenants who couldn't afford legal representation, who were not getting a fair shake from the eviction system. And clearly a political system that was premised upon keeping those in power who had power for decades and decades and years, keeping them in power was their primary end. So I decided to run. And what it takes away from you is I quit my job. I had a very lucrative law firm job in the Loop, that paid very well. And I decided to leave that job to run for office. My new wife had to go on without not really seeing me a whole lot in the first year of our marriage. Financially, it was a burden. We put some money into the campaign, but also survived without having to bring in an income. And the amount of time that you put into it is really important. But set up a running for office in a situation where we wanted to bring attention to the issue of affordable housing, particularly in the Black community in South Shore, and people who are getting pushed out of Hyde Park and in Calumet Heights, and all across the Southeast side, and because we wanted to highlight political corruption in the city and the things that people don't really think of political corruption. Everybody here knows, having run against the machine, that there are lots of things that happens in a political race for political candidates who are favored by the political power structure that get certain benefits that people don't even really see as corrupt.
Give me an example, Ken. Give me a real
money. Money is huge, right? In order to run for office, to be overwhelmingly successful, to heighten your chances of winning, money is going to be helpful. And if you go on Illinois Sunshine, you will see where money flows into the system from a lot of different candidates who run for office. And that will tell you a fair amount about where their stripes are, whether they're from the political machine, and who is funding them. And so for anybody who's running against a very powerful structure in Chicago, you're going to face an onslaught of money on the other side. And that's a barrier for independent candidates who are trying to just fix basic problems in their community.
Nicole, what was your campaign about? What were you ultimately trying to, if you could pare it down to one or two issues, what were you trying to accomplish? And are those things happening in some way in the community? Or are you still dealing with the same issues that just really haven't changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so in my community, it's because my community, so the bigger issue is gerrymandering, right? I have very disparate communities where you have a pretty moderately Black affluent Woodlawn, where the university is, and there's still a lot of poverty there, but not as much as there is on the west part of my ward, where there are just like very poor people, where you've got blocks without any type of development on it, and you would think you were in the rural South. And so there's a stark contrast. But my ward in particular has been plagued with decades and a legacy of corruption, as is unfortunately it sounds like a overwhelming thread across all of our stories, but my ward, the then incumbent was the third consecutive alderman to be indicted and then ultimately convicted. So there was a lot of distrust whereby you wouldn't have an alderman for more than two terms maybe. And so, you could say, hey, at least they're out of here because you might believe in terms, right? But so integrity was definitely a big one, but it was also just like, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do people, as an elected official or someone who's signing up to serve people, do you hear what people are asking you? Do you follow up with them? Do you keep your word? Because, you make a lot of campaign promises, but people don't always follow through with that. You're only listening to the people that turn out and vote, not the people that are harder to reach, right? And that was one of the hardest parts that I had come across during my campaign was, man, like, I don't blame you for not voting. I don't blame you. I get it. And if I was in your shoes, like if If the foyer of my apartment building was covered in black mold because there was no oversight with how landlords cared for their properties, then I too wouldn't vote. I too would feel a type of way and say that's not gonna help me, because the hood still looks the hood regardless of who's in office, from the president on down to your committeeman. So really it was integrity. Am I going to be honest? Am I going to have transparent conversation with you? Am I going to let you know that someone wants to change the zoning on this lot to something that would hurt you now and hurt you later and make it so that you probably wouldn't no longer be able to afford your home? So are we having that transparent conversation, and am I listening to you? And I think another part of that I would tell my constituents is, they ask me, what's a question that you haven't been asked? And I would say, well, I kind of flipped it and I said, what I haven't been able to share with you all is like, what part are you going to be adding to this? And I think that's helped build the relationship and rebuilds the trust between elected officials and constituents. I would say if you're mad at me for a vote I made, ask yourself, did you reach out to me? Did you do your part? And I think that's something that's really key. And I think even now more than ever is, as much as we may be frustrated with our Black elected officials for whatever reasons, we have to lean into them. We have to communicate with them, and we have to help hold them accountable and have their backs. Yeah, and so absolutely. We're able to say, I called you, I got these people to the meeting. This is what we need, Nicole. Okay, I'm all ears, because especially during, the previous administration in office, if you want me to vote this and then the mayor is giving me a check in one hand, you got to be able to explain that to residents. And I explained that to them. Like, if the mayor comes to me and says, hey, vote for this, here's a check, or I got somebody else and I'm putting $250,000 in their war chest, that makes it very difficult. And I want to be able to come back to my constituents and say, I need you all to do X, Y, and Z, because this is what the other option is. So it's really making sure, and that's what I help to communicate and continue to communicate to constituents, is like, this is a two-way street here. And because this is your community, and unfortunately, we don't have the luxury that they have in the second ward, where, we've got more to build. We have a lot of work, and we all have to do it together.
I love that comment, Nicole, about it being sort of a mutual situation. A couple of weeks ago, I had a friend of mine on this show whose name is Stephen Smith, ran for governor of West Virginia and came in second in the Democratic primary just last week. Basically, the primary happened. And I was so disappointed and so heartbroken that he didn't win, because his campaign was a people's campaign. Literally, he comes from a community organizing background and set up. He ran 20 other people with him. And Nicole, the thing that I found in running, I was amazed at how much people wanted to put everything on us, right? And what are you going to do? And how are you going to? I'm like, wait a second, this is our community. What are we going to do together? Amara, because you ran for mayor of the city, and you're the only one, by the way, I have to say, that I got the pleasure to vote for, because you know what I mean? I mean, I got the pleasure to support my brother and sister here, but I got the pleasure to actually vote for you because you ran in the area that we all represented by. But how did you deal with the diversity of the city? What were you pushing? And where are the issues that you care about now in the city? Because we've got a lot going on right now. We really, really do. And I'm sure you could speak to where we are right now and what you were fighting for.
Sure. So what we were pushing, and what the campaign was pushing, it was a people-driven and people-centered campaign, and it was about a vision for Chicago that was drastically different than the city that we'd had before. And so a lot of folks were running against the incumbent, and, they were doing a lot of just anti-campaigns. And ours was instead about pushing a platform that was quite visionary and that was very inclusive, and that showed what the city could be like with visionary leadership. And it was people-centered. So even the our logo. It was the inverted pyramid or the upside down triangle that represented actually changing the paradigm of leadership in the city from this sort of elite top-down approach of leadership to actually making the people at the center of all of our decision making. And that was largely because in my work, as whether as an organizer or even in public policy, or even when I worked in government, it was always this notion that policies should come from the bottom up. They should come from the people who are closest to it. And they actually have the best solutions. They know pretty much what they need and how to get there. And so the role of the elected officials is to represent that in those spaces where they're making decisions. And we just hadn't had that for such a long time in Chicago. And it did get to the point, to Nicole's point, that, what's the relevance of elected officials when nothing tangibly has changed in my day-to-day? So anyone coming to me telling me that they want to be the next elected official, I can hardly care, because what has been the impact of the existing elected officials? And that's very real. I think that's partly why the voter turnout was abysmal in the last election. We barely cracked 33%, I think, in the primary, maybe 33, 31, 32% of people actually came out to vote. So, there's a lot that we contend with. I think as I look back to the issues that we're facing now and what we were talking about a year ago, we're talking about the same things that we campaigned on. So now the big conversation is around defunding the police, for example. That I basically ran on that campaign, talking about how we shift the budget. The budget reflects our priorities. The budget reflects our values. And if we say that we value economic growth and resilience in communities that have been neglected for decades, if we say that we value health and welfare, if we say that we value education, it can't just be rhetoric. It has to be reflected in the budget line. We talk about equity so much, but to me, equity is a line item on the budget. So don't tell me about equity if there are not specific shifts being made to allocate resources from one line item to another that represent that. So the fact that the teachers had to go on strike for 11 days to advocate for things like nurses, social workers, libraries in our schools, that's very problematic, because at the same time, CPS also has a $33 million contract with the Chicago Police Department to have police officers in the schools. Where are our priorities? We're talking about the use of public funds for large scale development. The Lincoln Yards project comes to mind. A year ago, or a little bit over a year ago, we were at a press conference talking about how we need to get a handle on how these public dollars are being siphoned to large-scale development projects that could otherwise build and complete those projects without public dollars. Yet a day after, I think it was like a day after the election, the deal was going through, it was sailing through. There's so many issues that, we have not been addressed. Even when you talk about police accountability, a report just came out a few days ago where the city is just not doing well on adhering to the mandates that came out of the Department of Justice report and the consent decree. We're woefully behind on that. Now, granted, some of what's happened with the pandemic has definitely taken its toll, and it's taken our attention. But again, a lot of the things that we were talking about a year ago, we're now talking about them now. And I think what was really lacking is visionary leadership. Imagine a city that, in this moment where there's so much healing that's necessary, where there's so much that's needed, if we had the kind of leadership to make those structural changes, to actually use the momentum of what's happening globally to make structural changes to our finance system. So why aren't we talking about a public bank in Chicago, even as our small business owners got locked out of the PPP program at the federal level, even as many of them are not going to be able to reopen when, once people start getting back to whatever they're calling normal. We're not talking about cooperative economic models. Now that traditional businesses, we know where that is, but what about people owning their businesses collectively? How do we support the growth of cooperative businesses in the city so that people can actually begin to build wealth? They can own the businesses in their neighborhoods. That was a huge issue that came just a few weeks ago when we saw what happened with our commercial corridors that were essentially left, to their own devices during a lot of the unrest that happened. So there's things that visionary leadership should be pushing proposals that we can now put in place and use the national momentum to do it. Instead, what we're seeing is this sort of resistance and almost shrinking in, where the city is sort of shrinking down and digging our heels into doing the same things that have not worked, and we're not getting better outcomes. So that's, to me, that's the juxtaposition of where we were more than a year ago and the things that we talked about, and who could have predicted 2020? I mean, who knew?
Yeah, I was literally just watching this frontline documentary about the coronavirus a couple hours ago, and the documentary about the virus is kind of like, how do we get here, right? It's a whole 2-hour thing, and it started off on New Year's Eve in Times Square, like everybody's kissing and celebrating, and none of us knew this was going. I mean, this is unprecedented. Doesn't even describe it. But let me read some of the comments. Because I want you guys to address some of these things that people are saying. So Daniel Smith says, it's time for us as middle-class citizens to become elected officials. Lucretia Burt says, voter apathy is definitely understandable when you do not see change in your community. She also said that equity is a line item on the budget. How we spend money demonstrates our values. Ken, are you hopeful about this time now? Because I am with you all. The city of Los Angeles moved $1.8 billion from policing into social services. As far as I'm aware, we have not done sort of a similar action here in the city of Chicago. And so, Ken, this moment is real. And Amara talked about policy over, policy as a part of protest, right? Policy over posturing, right? Because so many companies are now coming out with the Black Lives Matter and da-da-da-da-da. What are you going to do? Ken, are you hopeful about this moment in terms of policy?
I am hopeful. And the reason why I'm hopeful is because the only thing that we've ever seen cause change in the United States over the long history of this country, when it starts to hurt people's pocketbooks. And so we've seen a lot of companies come in and try to take advantage and get on the right side of history, because they know that if they don't, they will end up losing millions of dollars. You think they're going to change Aunt Jemima because they just didn't know it was racist for decades and decades? No, they knew it was bad. They knew it was bad. But because now we have a focus on companies and governments and these small municipalities and police departments across the country, and there is hyper scrutiny from the top to the of every institution that exists in our economy and in our government as to what they have been doing to make sure they are routing out racism, either systematically or just straightforward, right in front of your face. And they want to be on the right side of these things because they don't want to be robbed doorstep and saying, hey, you didn't do things right. So I'm hopeful because I'm seeing lots of Americans take to the streets, people who are passionate of all different color and stripe, led by our Black brothers and sisters out there who are putting their bodies on the line to say, we're going to take this anymore. You're having real change as a result of that. I just see it in our politics going forward too.
Yeah. So speaking of protests, and I apologize, you guys. I have to bring up this person who sucks kind of the air out of every political conversation that we're having, and we have not mentioned him at all. I apologize for bringing him up, but I have to. He's having a rally that starts in 10 minutes. And his excuse is that he's using the protest. If they can get out and protest, we can have a rally. Are you guys hopeful? Let's talk about national politics for a second. Do you think, I've looked at a number of polls in these swing states and that sort of thing, and Joe Biden is leading in the polls, but Trump is rallying his base. What do you think is going to happen in November, particularly with the battles around mail-in voting and how the Republicans are fighting and don't want to see mail-in mail-in ballots? What do you think is going to happen? What is your prediction and hope and prescription, if you will, for this November election?
I'm gonna let Amara get that because she's ready for that.
Oh, really? I'm ready? I didn't know.
Well, I gave y'all the softball question of all softball questions. Okay, come on, somebody take.
You know what? Okay, so I will say one of the things that I think has happened consistently since our president and everything that's happening, people still are trying to rationalize why he has the support that he has. I think they're still trying to appeal to a sense of decency or this normative idea of what they believe the president should have or how he should be, and we should all be outraged. And I just, that they're still doing it after 4 years. And I just think that these are people who are going to support the president no matter what. I think it's a situation in which he even articulated early on that he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue in New York City and he would still have his supporters. I think, I'm not saying, to that extent, but I don't think that his supporters are the people who you're going to appeal to with rationality and with human decency. That's not what appeals to them about who he is. And because the failure to acknowledge that, I think, is the reason why the Democratic Party has had such a hard time ginning up any kind of enthusiasm or a real strategy to engage voters and to be prepared for what's going to happen in November. I think they underestimated the importance of appeal and energy. I think they did that the last time as well. And so instead of going with the energy, they went with whomever they thought was should be the nominee, whether the energy supported that person or not. And it's the same thing that happened this time. I mean, ultimately, we've got to exist politically. We've got to see things as they are and then act accordingly. And I think that there's still some disconnect where, at least on the Democratic side, or just people who are wondering, well, how can they support this president? And we've got to appeal to them about how evil this person is. That's not what they're thinking about, and that's not why they're supporting him. And the sooner that we acknowledge that, I think we would have been better off. I don't think that we acknowledged it quickly enough. And so even as everything is happening now, I don't think, even if polls are saying that Biden is leading, well, that's fine. But what's going to matter is who can get their voters out in November.
They said the same thing about Hillary.
So I think, there's one thing that came to mind. I was talking about this the other day. I just think about how the media just pointed and laughed at Trump like, haha, like he said this, he's crazy. Oh my God, we're still gonna win though. We're still gonna, Hillary still got it. And then they laughed until they cried and boo-hooed on November 6th, right? And so I think with the recent uprisings, things are shifting. So if we even think about in Kentucky, that Senate race with Charles Booker, the Democrat, what's her name? Goodness gracious, I can't think of the
Amy McGrath.
Amy McGrath, yeah. So everyone thought that she was gonna, she's pushing forward. But I think if they're able to really say, maybe on the top, and this is a conversation for a later time, like they want a white man as president. Okay. But if these other federal level races, for instance, this Kentucky one, it's really shifting. And that may be able to, Biden may have to really like pull in and lean into other opportunities that typically they didn't anticipate. So this gentleman here who's running, and he may have a really good chance because that's what people want. And I think people are really looking. They're just like, this is kind of messed up. And not just the Black folks either. They're just like, what is going on? And I'm kind of sick of the mess too. And so, you got to thank Black people yet again. You got to thank Black people for trying to save democracy, for putting, Raven, saying SOS, like this is the time for us to move, because if not, Trump was going to win again, even with his lack of movement towards on COVID and, implementing the wartime production to get more tests and get more PPE supplies. Like he's got a whole bunch of, dings at him, but he was going to push through. And I think this is the opportunity that people are like, no, we cannot sit and wait. Right. This is going to continue to hurt my pocketbook. And I can't.
Right. Ken, I'm sorry, Attorney Thomas. I'm sorry. I can call you buddy here. I want to talk. This is a lot of people are not thinking about this. The Supreme Court, Ken. The Supreme Court. The three branches of government: legislative, executive, judicial. You work in the judicial branch. You're an attorney. Talk to us about the Supreme Court and why those who are on the fence about Joe Biden need to consider the Supreme Court.
Well, let me tell you this. There is one institution in the government that has tremendous amount of control on civil rights, on a woman's right to choose, on a whole lot of issues that affect us every day. On policing, you want to talk about, how police are able to use their power, qualified immunity and their ability to shoot black people in the middle of the street and get away with it. The Supreme Court has a tremendous role in defining the police's ability to actually shoot people and get away with it. So you want to talk about importance? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, oldest member of the court right now. She's a Democratic appointee. If she passes away, God, man, I hope that does not happen. Trump will have the opportunity to appoint her replacement, and he is not going to appoint a liberal lion like she is. So it is incredibly important for people to come out and vote for the Democratic candidate who's not going to appoint people like the conservatives on the court like Justice Alito, and so that's very important. But I will say, as to Trump and the election, if this election ends up being about Trump and his unconstitutional, unsavory, racist, anti-immigrant, anti-women's right to choose, anti-black people agenda, then he'll lose. But if he can somehow make this about Joe Biden, which because of COVID, because of all these protests and things like that, and Trump's mismanagement of them, the focus has very much been on Trump and his ineffectiveness as a leader. Then if he can somehow put the focus on Biden, then Biden will lose. So we need to stay vigilant and make sure, regardless of what the polls are, that folks are active and folks are making sure they're either in their request in to vote by mail or showing up to the polls to vote, because we made this mistake last time. Trump won Wisconsin by 10,000 votes, a very small margin. And I think 50,000 black people, just the black people in Wisconsin, and there are not that many black people in Wisconsin. About 60,000 of them didn't show up to vote. Imagine how many people who voted for Barack Obama twice didn't show up to vote, were white people. I mean, you're talking about small margins here that is leading to a country that we cannot be proud of. We can't be proud of when Trump goes out and makes fun of Christianity, Ted. I mean, I know. This man is not a Christian. He does not believe in God. He does not hold up the tenets of Jesus Christ. He shows up to a church in the middle of a protest, clears out the protest with tear gas, and holds up a Bible.
Don't get me started, Kenny.
Who believes in the tenets of Jesus Christ?
Don't get me started.
I will. But we need to eradicate that. We need to have good people in office, and if we're going to have that, we need to show up to vote. Everybody.
All right, guys. So we're gonna try to wrap up here about 7. I mean, I'm gonna try to end at 7. Although it's the internet, I can go till 10 if I want to. But we're gonna stop here in a couple minutes. I really want, first of all, thank you. You guys are amazing. I mean, you really, really are. And I'm so excited to have you all on the same panel. You all know how cool this is. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, and it just kind of all worked out together. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate you for your fire, for your passion, for your commitment to our communities. I respect each one of you all tremendously individually. I like all of you individually. I'm happy to have you all in the same place. I'm wishing for more from all of you, and I know there's more in store, and I will be there to support you guys. And hopefully whatever I'm doing, you guys, we'll do this together, because it takes not only a village to raise a child, but to change a community, right? It takes all of us, running for Senate and state Senate and mayor and alderman and, teaching and protesting and organizing and everything. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you guys all a closing word. And once again, I want you to speak specifically to the moment that we're in. You've been engaged. Juneteenth is not new to you all, okay? As someone, Lucretia Burns, I got to get that one comment real quickly. Hey, doesn't support the mayor because she didn't recognize Juneteenth, okay? It's a very real issue. Juneteenth is not new to you. This protest is not new to you. Social change is not new to you. What do you say right now to the folks their hearts are open. They want to do something. You guys have been doing something for a long time. What do you say to them in this moment that will help guide us towards change? And I'm going to give it to Nicole, Kenny, and I'm going to let you close it out, Amara.
I saw a meme. It was said some of you all did a cost benefit analysis to see if you should speak up or make a certain status. And this was this was a couple weeks ago. Like, should people really be vocal about what's going on? And I think you need to say it. You need to say what needs to be said. Call it out. You need to speak up in every space that you have influence in, or whenever anywhere that you're in, whether they're work. I mean, really think strategically about how you can leverage your access and your proximity to influence and resources. But speak up. This is not the time to say, oh, well, I might lose. No, but push it and figure out how to do it in a way that's still respectful, because we still live in a capitalist society and we have to keep food on our table. So it's really difficult, but I'm urging people to speak up and do what they didn't think that they would do before and didn't have the courage to do, because now is the time for us to maximize this moment and for us to get everything to get things moving towards the direction so we can get everything we need to restore and heal as a community.
Awesome. Ken Thomas.
I'm going to steal from Nicole because I think she's a very wise woman. Speak up. It is incredibly important. Whether you are a non-Black person in a lot of non-Black people spaces, or you are a Black person in a lot of non-Black people spaces, I would even say it is your responsibility to speak up at this time, where just about everybody has seen George Floyd. Everybody. So you can't say it's random. Everybody will know what you're talking about because everybody's seen what has happened and understands what is going on. Use that as an opportunity to talk to people who you would not normally have conversations with. I had a conversation once with a gentleman of mine who's a good friend of mine, who's not Black. And when I told him about the abject fear that I had when I get pulled over by the police, I've never had a negative interaction with the police officer. But I know that as a Black person, my life is at risk when I'm pulled over by a police officer who can end my life. The amount of fear that I have when I get pulled over and try to avoid those interactions, even in peaceful times or just walking down the street. And I'm a lawyer. I'm very well versed in what my rights are. And I have a degree of privilege. I admit that. It is something that I have, and I know that is something I need to constantly be thinking about when I'm advocating for lots of different people. But I have abject fear. And that person didn't even realize that. They didn't understand that. And so I think there is a lot of people out there who just don't live in the shoes of being a Black person, and they don't understand what you go through day by day, seeing what we see on TV, seeing what we see in real life, knowing what has happened to family members of ours and their interactions with the criminal justice system. It is incumbent upon us to have those conversations, whether they be hard, whether they be uncomfortable, because people ought to know. Continue to take to the streets and continue to advocate for change in our political system, because now is the time, and we ought to strike while the iron is hot.
Thank you so much. Dr. Enyia.
Sure. Well, I first want to thank you for bringing this together and for inviting me here and to, the panel. These are all excellent folks that I've seen putting in the work. And I think that's what I'll leave everyone with is we've got to put in the work. I will say that in this moment, this is a time where as a city and really as a country, there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. And this is why leadership is so important, because leadership actually sets the tone. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen, and it needs to be demonstrated from the top down. And so that's something I want to leave with, because I don't think that we talk about it enough. Even when we talk about the issues in Chicago, for example, we don't speak about it from the human perspective, from the heart perspective. But I will say also that we need vision. And this is a time where people are just figuring out that there really aren't limitations on the things that we can demand and the things that we can create, that we can actually create the kinds of neighborhoods, the kind of city, the kind of country that we want. We're now having conversations about defunding the police. This would never have happened years ago when many who have been putting in work around this issue were not heard. So this isn't the time to be conservative. This isn't the time to shrink back or to start worrying about, is that too much? This is the time to step into this space, stretch our arms out, stretch our legs out, and take up as much space as possible with the vision of the kind of society that we want to live in, the kind of city that we want to live in. So I'm encouraging folks to do more. Whatever you're doing, do more of it, because there's no other time. I don't think that we're going to get this kind of opportunity again to really push a vision that we want for our city and for our country. And I also will say that we should be unrelenting. A lot of times, again, in Chicago in particular, there's this kind of fear. We're afraid to ask for too much, especially in communities that have been marginalized for so long. There's almost a fear of asking for too much, even though you've not even been getting what you're entitled to. So I would say be unrelenting in pushing for the things that you want and the things that you believe you deserve, the things that we deserve, because this is the time to do it. A lot of people who may have been fearful because your job or other circumstances, now that everyone is speaking up, or there's a critical mass of folks speaking up, take full advantage of that. Use that as the cover that you need to do what you can. And then the last piece that I'll leave with everyone is to recognize that all lanes have to be filled in this fight. So there's no one particular way of fighting or pushing or advocating that's better than the other. We need folks out in the streets. We most certainly need folks out in the streets. We need protest, whatever it looks like, in whatever form. We need that to push the status quo to begin to do something different. We need the policy folks. We need the folks who are going to be holding the meetings, late night strategy meetings. We need the people who all they can do is, if they can bring, food and water for folks. We need the people who are going to bail people out of jail. We need the folks who are going to spread memes and things on social media. So it's important for us to recognize that no one is above the other in this fight, that we are all collectively fighting alongside each other to push this vision that we have. And so we all need each other at every level. And so that's what I want to leave with people as we continue to navigate this moment that we're in.
Thank you so much. Amara, Nicole, Ken, you guys are heroes in our community, and you all are just getting started. And so you inspire. One of the things that I have been trying to do with the show is to let people know that change starts with us. If we change our lives, we can change the world. Every one of us. I love the comment about the lanes. All the lanes have to be filled. Every one of us can do something. And you guys prove that. Thank you for inspiring us. Keep going. I'm a praying person. I'll be praying for you all strength. I know personally, once again, what it takes. We are all a part of a similar fraternity, if you will, sorority, fraternity, but whatever. And I know what it takes. I know the personal cost, and people don't see those things. But we got to stay strong, and we've got to keep fighting because change is possible. Thank you guys so much, and I'd love to have you guys back sometime. Take care.
Thank you so much, Ted.
Right.
Thanks for having me on, Ted.
Take care now. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching tonight. Change with Ted Williams. Remember, change starts with you. We'll be back here next Saturday at 6 p.m. I want to give you guys a few quick announcements before we go. This week on Wednesday, we will be performing 1619, The Journey of a People, at the House of Hope, Chicago. We will be streaming live, our first time performing since the COVID-19 crisis hit. And so we're super excited. 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Please watch. This production is, as you guys know, not only very close to my heart, but really very close to, I think, what we need to be talking about in our communities right now. And so I'm very, very hopeful that you guys will come and join us then. As well, also, I am involved in a couple other things in the local community. I know Appreciate Faulkner's on the line. GSA is a great organization. I know Lucretia Birch is on the line, is doing some great work. Lucretia, please send me guys what you guys are doing, and I'll spread it in my social media network as well. I am just finished a book here here called Your Life in 4K, an audio book that is really designed to help us to really live a life of balance. We can't change the world if we cannot live a life of personal balance. I found this out the hard way, even in running for office. Please take care of yourself as we are out fighting to change our community. We're also organizing a couple community cleanups. So please like the page, hit me up in the comments and inbox. Lucretia, watch that documentary. It's a really good one. And you guys take care. Have a great night. Stay hopeful. Stay faithful. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Remember, change starts with you. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching.